President of Electrical Engineering Academic Association Thailand, Dr. Atikom Reksabut. President of Technological and Higher Education Institute in Hong Kong, Professor Christina Hong. I don't see you here, but I see you on the screen. Hi, how are you? President of the Institute for the Promotion of Teaching Science and Technology, Professor Chukit Limpichamnong. Hi, Ajahn Chukit. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome all of you to the 6th International STEM Education Conference, or iSTEM-Ed2021 in Pattaya, Chonburi, Thailand. This year's conference theme, Innovating STEM Education in the Digital Disruptive Era, emphasizes on providing opportunities for educators, academics, and researchers to share their experiences, knowledge, and techniques in learning and teaching of STEM, as well as focusing the need to effectively improve education quality in a variety of environments worldwide. On behalf of the organizing committee, it is truly an honor to have among us today prominent keynote speakers, Professor Christina Hong, Professor Chukit Limpichamnong, and we have many distinguished participants from both national and international institutions. In addition, students from 29 high schools throughout Thailand are invited to present their STEM projects at this conference. I would like to take this occasion to sincerely thank Associate Professor Atikom Reksabut, President of Electrical Engineering Academic Association Thailand, in co-hosting this conference, and to his colleagues for their effort to create the special events in hybrid format, even though we all have encountered an unusual situation with the global COVID-19 pandemic. This event could not have been made possible without gracious support and contribution from IEEE, Thailand Section, IPST, International Steering Committee, Technical Program Committee, and organizing team members. I wish this conference every achievement and look forward to its fruitful outcome. I hereby declare the STEM-Ed 2021 conference officially open and wish you all a very successful event and pleasant time in the beautiful city of Pattaya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kun Hing Sumontha. Please stay on the stage. We will have the group photo for the keynote speaker first. Please pin the screen of the two keynote speaker. Yes, please stay on the podium. Yes, we will start with the group photo of the keynote speaker, and after this, we would like to invite committees from WEAT and CDTI to be on the stage for the group photo. Okay, now start with the keynote speaker. Okay, just a moment. Okay, thank you. Next, I would like to invite all committees from WEAT and CDTI to be on the stage for the group photo. Thank you very much for all committees from both institutes.
Thank you, Honored Presidents. Before we continue on, I would like to remind all of our audiences in the conference hall and online to mute your communication devices. After our keynote addresses, there will be a short Q&A. For those online, if you have any questions, please feel free to share in the chat room. We will select questions and ask them for you. As for the participants in the hall, you will be invited to share your questions at the microphone. Now, I would like to invite our first keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Christina Hong, President of Technological and Higher Education Institute in Hong Kong. She will be delivering us a lecture on STEM Education 4.0, Skilling for Industry 4.0. Not to keep you waiting any longer, Professor Dr. Christina Hong, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, and a warm greeting from Hong Kong SAR to all my colleagues in Thailand and also around the globe. Now, my screen is currently showing that the host has disabled my screen sharing. So let's... Could you open the screen sharing? Okay. Okay, so I'm hoping that you can see the screen now. Are you there?
Not yet.
Okay, can you see the screen?
No.
Apologies for a technical glitch. Is this one there?
Okay, everybody just wait a minute. We are, yeah, now we.
Okay.
Okay, the screen is on now.
I need this over here. Okay. Otherwise I can't see it. Okay. All right. Just making it. All right. Sorry about that. So let's now get started. So thank you again for the opportunity to present. So again, I'm going to talk about STEM or STEAM education. And Skilling for Industry 4.0 with particular reference to what's happening here in the Hong Kong setting. So we have altered realities. I mean, we are all really experiencing a disruption that has hitherto been unknown to certainly this generation. And we are now talking about the metaverse. We are talking about different ways in which we are changing our realities, and we're looking certainly very much at the next normal, so that any time you are examining papers around or white papers around what the future of work is going to be about, there are numerous iterations now of publications the world over, and I'm sure you have them in Thailand and other parts of the world, which is really starting to ask the question, what is next? And I think certainly in higher education and in STEM or STEAM education, that is exactly the same. I mean, like any other industry, education has also been disrupted So it is an opportune time for us to be examining. Oh, so I see you're not. I'm just going to continue as it is. So we are examining what it is to educate, and particularly to educate in the STEM arena. So here in Hong Kong, we have certainly started to ask the question around VPET education, so vocational professional education and training. And we've also started to ask more questions about the applied degree, because when you start thinking about, the technologists and the advanced level skills that are required for the next generation of workforce, then certainly it is about the technical and vocational education and training sector that is going to, I think, in the main, be providing that. Although later I am going to talk very much more about an ecosystem approach. So the future of work. We have a different jobs landscape now than as ever before. So the World Economic Forum talks about by 2025 that sense that there is going to be a significant shift in terms of what types of jobs are going to be in the workforce around the world, and the jobs that are going to be in demand and the jobs that are going to be decreasing in their demand. And as you can see on the screen there are significant number that are within the STEM environment. Whereas those with decreasing job demand are those like baseline data entry clerks or accounting, where automation and robotics can actually be put into play, and robotic process automation can be put into play to actually shift the focus away from the human labor much more to a robotic automated process. So we also now talk about Education 4.0. So as those of us that have been in the education sector for a little while now, we will remember that when we were at school or when we were at university, we attended lectures and we had much more of an approach where the teacher was really looking at asking us to memorize. It was very much more a pouring in of content and knowledge rather than a self-knowledge or co-creation of knowledge, which increasingly is what Education 4.0 is about. So in the bottom half of this slide, we look at the workforce futures in regard to the new Industry 4.0. So these are the types of activity, the types of new innovation and technology that are starting to come into play. And it is these items that are actually disrupting the world of work as we know it across all work sectors, and certainly also our daily lives. We now also talk about Industry 5.0, which is going to be the next generation, which is really going to be examining how humans and machines will begin to really work more closely together. So the drivers of Education 4.0 are what is on screen now. So clearly we are looking at future skills. We have a much longer anticipated lifespan. So therefore we have an aging population, which is also influencing, I think, the ways in which many of our sectors, including the health tech sector, is addressing the future of work and the types of technologies and processes that are necessary to support an aging population that is a global trend. Then we're also looking at a millennial mindset who are asking for different things from certainly when I was at school. We have digital network devices, we have personal data now that is out in the open sphere, so how are we managing that? And then collaboration platforms, such as the one we're on now, in fact, in terms of Zoom, Teams meetings that are bringing people together from across the globe, both in terms of sharing, but also in terms of that collaboration across industries. Talent investment, and we talk now about skilling, reskilling and upskilling, and then the shared platform so that it is no longer a one-stop shop, but that we can actually generate and share resources anywhere in the world, in fact, and learn together, so it's a collaboration. And then social progress, which has been hopefully brought about by greater automation and the greater ability to be able to share and to support each other around the world. So when you look at the top 10 skills by 2025, and again this is the World Economic Forum, we see quite an interesting piece of data there, which is saying that 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025. And on the page there, you see the types of reskilling and upskilling that is going to be required. So clearly they are very much human, creative skills, but also technology use and development. So they are the two key criteria that will be important moving forward. So those human skills and also the new technological skills. So what is Education 4.0? We all know, I mean, you have got a wee digital device there that you're probably using to record, to check in with what's happening with your personal and professional lives. And also from time to time, I'm sure during the course of this conference and this forum, you will check snippets of information to kind of find out more, and you'll be able to do that instantaneously. So it's the ubiquitous devices which allow us now anywhere, anytime to source content and to verify content and knowledge. It is much more personal, so we are very much more interacting with each other via digital devices. Our delivery now in education is hybrid and flexible, and certainly given our experience of COVID, more than ever we're able to do that because we've had to pivot very, very quickly to that. The other key, I think, for me, and I won't go through all of this, is that sense that we are now really looking at applied practice. So content is not enough. We actually have to now synthesize, integrate, and actually apply practice in order to demonstrate knowledge, skills, and understanding. And we are therefore working much more in a project-based activity. So in terms of the top 10 digital skills that Education 4.0 is demanding, these are now on your screen. And again, they reiterate that sense of the human skills, those soft skills, the creative skills, and the judgments that humans make. AI certainly will try to attempt this, but I am hopeful that the human skills, the emotional interpersonal skills will always be a characteristic of us and the social collaboration that is part of humankind. Yes? Hello?
Can you put the slide in slideshow?
Okay, we're going to try and do that. Okay, now I'll go back to the beginning. It's not now forwarding. Okay, hopefully that is better. All right, so I'm talking now about lifelong learning and social mobility. So, oh, now they can see my note. Apologies. So this but I've seen all. It's not helping.
Professor Christina Hong, you can
Apologies,
try.
everyone. We're just having problems trying to get you the presentation only mode. It doesn't seem to be wanting to shift. It's unusual because this has never happened to me before.
Professor, you can try
Yes.
to use the presenter view already. Okay.
Yes.
This is okay, right? So we can start. We can continue the lecture. Okay.
Because unfortunately you are seeing the sidebar, which I don't quite know how that's happening. Apologies.
Everything is okay, Professor. If you could please carry on.
I know, but it's obviously
it's quite clear. It is.
It's quite distractive, though, right? It's distracting you from
just a bit. I think we can focus on the main slide. Thank you.
Okay, but now I'm not getting the main slide in. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Okay, so lifelong learning and social mobility is something that the VPET provider or the TVET or VET provider is certainly has a mission around. No? Now it's not moving at all. Sorry. Because it's not moving to the next slide now. Okay, all right. Okay, so STEM Education 4.0, I'm really sorry about this. I'm going to refer to engineering education, and the Global State of the Art in Engineering Education had a report that was published by MIT in 2018, which highlighted the shifts and innovations that were happening in engineering education. I'm sure those of you in the audience will be very familiar with this. But I just want to highlight what were the key kind of takeaways for that, which really referred to PBL, so that's project-based learning and internships, partnerships with industry, more multidisciplinarity and the human skills coming into engineering education, and then the shifting of a global axis away from the normal powerhouses across to where we actually currently reside in Asia and South America. So there's a pivot that MIT was anticipating. And then a movement towards more socially relevant engineering curricula and an emphasis on student choice. So a less rigid approach and hopefully an opening up for students in terms of their choosing. However, in activating these types of new agendas, there are significant challenges around aligning what the institution is wanting to do, and also I would venture, what the Institute of Engineers want to do in terms of professional accreditation, and then delivering these curriculum reforms at scale. So I want to focus now on what is happening here in Hong Kong at the Vocational Training Council, and certainly also my own institution. So just to give you a very brief overview, the VTC is the largest VPET or VET provider here in Hong Kong, and it delivers from certificates, so this is the schooling end of the spectrum, right through to master's degrees at this stage, and in collaboration with offshore partners as well. So we have general programs, and then we will have some programs that are very, very much focused on particular disciplines. So for example, here in Hong Kong, certainly the creative and cultural industries is one of the key pillar industries. So you will see that HKDI, the Design Institute, is a leading light in that area. And then also, of course, culinary is a key area here in Hong Kong in terms of pillar industries. So we have CCI and ICI, so the Culinary Institute and also the Chinese Culinary Institute are particularly set up to deliver in those areas. So here at the I, we extend the VPET value chain through to the higher degree level. So we have 21 applied degrees and then related professional diplomas and credentials. all related to industries and the niche areas that are targeted for Hong Kong in terms of its development. So I've got some on screen there. I think the I has got a particular interest around sustainability. So many of our programs have a focus on extending design environment for sustainability, waste resource management and sustainability. And we've also are setting up now a CIFOR, in other words, a research institute around food waste resource management. So in the supply chain, as new food processes are created, there are always the waste products. So we are trying to look at sustainable ways in which we can actually regenerate and create new sustainable products. At the I also, in terms of our focus on general education, we are looking at the creative and the design thinking aspects to try and generate in our engineers across all our programs that sense of creativity and entrepreneurship and the sense of what is technology and the workforce requiring in the future world of work. So across all of our programs, we have professional recognition. So where there is an opportunity for, are you seeing my slides at the moment? You are? Okay,
yes,
thank
yes.
you. All right, so there is professional recognition sought. So we embed certificates. We also seek the recognition of the industries and the associations. So I think as a result of that, there is 90% employment rate for the higher diploma graduates coming out of VTC, and also the degree graduate employment rate, I'm pleased to say, is 90% at the moment. We work very hard to place our graduates, and I think that is a reflection of the skilling and the WIL, which I'm going to talk about now, which happens in the programs through the sub-degree areas. So that's the Institute of Vocational Education higher diploma programs, and then also the I-degree program. So there are significant numbers of hours of work where the students are in work with industries so that they actually get a very real sense of what that industry and the professional practices of that particular area are about. So therefore, you know, the match is there rather than the skills mismatch that sometimes does occur. So here are just some examples of our industry partners here in Hong Kong. I'm sure that you will recognize some of them because they are multinational in many respects, some of them, and then some of them are very small. So from both the SME size right through to kind of the local to regional to some global players are part of our WIL, and our students certainly from the I, we do send them abroad as well. So the VTC Earn and Learn scheme, you may know it as an apprenticeship scheme, has been in place since 2014. And again, this is part of what we would regard certainly as STEM or STEAM education. So it is that sense that it's not about you know, the lecture theatre and being in place, but it is about the opportunity for in-service practitioners also to be able to both earn and learn at the same time. Interestingly enough, we are working very much on workplace learning and assessment in a digital mode now to try and really increase the ability of both our education providers and also our employers in the workplace to be able to work together for the benefit of the student, the workplace and the education provider to try and further incentivize this as an initiative for Hong Kong. Now, in many parts of the world, Earn and Learn, or the modern apprenticeship at degree or even master's degree level, and I would venture, you know, the UK in this regard, is part and parcel of what we are also trying to do here at the I. So currently we have 5 degree programs in this mode. So again, the students come in for some time. So it could be one day, it could be part-time during the evenings, as well as working. So we now have graduates from certainly building services engineering and civil engineering, because they were one of our early 2 programs that went out in this mode, and they are succeeding. I mean, as a result, I think, of completing their degree studies, the majority of those students have either gained promotion or have got more senior level activity that they are undertaking in their workplaces. Some innovation in the STEM area, we would offer a professional diploma Meister. So this is a new pilot program that VTC being delivered out of the eye is going to be looking at. We are aware that there are professional practitioners at very senior level in areas such as lift and escalator engineering that do not normally have the opportunity to have a QF level 5, so that's at degree level, accredited diploma. So this is something completely new. It is something that it is a collaboration between the Vocational Training Council and the eye, and we are hoping also with the relative government bureau to be really retraining and upskilling these professional meisters, so a master level tradesperson, if you will, in lift and escalator engineering. So that is something that is an innovation for Hong Kong here. So in Hong Kong, as in many other parts of the world, we're looking at innovation and technology to really promote the development of Industry 4.0 and reindustrialization. So some of the activities here at the VTC have been about really gearing up our own infrastructure and our teaching and learning delivery, and also those learning spaces that are going to be the open spaces for both industry, in pre-service as well as in-service students and the community at large to come in and get that skilling in order to actually support Hong Kong's desire to really improve and to enhance itself as a smart city. So the Smart City Blueprint for Hong Kong, just by way of context, is really looking at mobility, people, the economy, environment, government, and smart living, and really trying to integrate the technologies or those STEM areas, as well as clearly the sustainability areas and the human touch that is really important around safe, healthy, and culturally vibrant citizenry as part and parcel of that vibrant smart city and the goal for that. So the things that VTC are doing, firstly, supported by government, reindustrialization and technology training program, which subsidises the local companies to actually upskill, reskill, and set about the digital transformation and the use of new technologies that's so important in Industry 4.0. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm talking about these new spaces. So we're talking about the next generation learning spaces that are going to be available, or are available, in fact, here at the VTC in Hong Kong. So we have an Internet of Things Innovation and Technology Centre that really is about industry collaboration, and it's about applied research, and it's also about multidisciplinarity in terms of the ways in which we increasingly are working, trying to break down those silos across industries and across education in terms of the sectors, and then also bringing in the community to have them really start to investigate what it is that is Industry 4.0. We have a building information modelling hub that is situated at the I Ching Yi, and again, this is around the new construction technologies that are mandatory, in fact, here in Hong Kong for the very large and multi-million-dollar projects. So building information modelling is helping to really project modelling, obviously, around the new constructs. But we're also talking much more about modular integrated construction. We're talking about the process flows that increasingly are digital. So this, again, is a co-collaboration space and an opportunity to really upskill in terms of BIM manager certified training. We have a co-creation centre. So again, this really is around together in a project-based way, looking at ideation and solutions for industry with industries, with our students and our educators and other collaborators coming in, including, in fact, internationals from time to time, if there is a project that is appropriate to that end. A cybersecurity centre has just been opened at Ivy Taiwan, which is across the way from where I currently am. And again, it is about authentic training and facilitating community engagement, because there's a lot of talk around cybersecurity, and there's nothing like coming into a cybersecurity hub and actually having a little play for the community, but also having some serious training and upskilling and reskilling for those of the community that are already in service and wanting to upskill. And then a China Light and Power, a power engineering laboratory, has also been set up in another Ivy Institute to have our students really work with advanced smart grid and high voltage training to nurture power engineering talent. So aside from that, we have had in the past a health tech centre. So here we have interdisciplinarity regarding that lifelong learning and the ageing workforce and the ageing population, as I spoke with about. So again, that is about bringing the elders from communities and having them intersect with our young people as they are learning how to provide for and support the elderly in the community. Part of that, of course, is the elderly learning the new technology. So cyber Tai Chi is also part and parcel of personalised learning for our students and the community at large. And another is a airport operations simulation centre, which has been in operation for some time now. But again, this echoes that Education 4.0, that it is about inquiry based. It's about learning through doing in practical simulated settings in this case, rather than in the actual workplace-based setting. So control rooms where flight simulators are also used and the students can learn together to solve these problems that are put before them. At the I, in terms of our own STEM engineering education, and we run civil engineering, we run building services, and then also aircraft engineering, we have, and I'm not going to talk through all of these, some of these activities are new, some of them have been going on for a while. So project-based learning, certainly with and for industries, is something that we have been doing for a while, and it is working with project briefs with industry. And then the introduction of AR, VR in terms of those processes, as I've just spoken about, in AI, and then the new construction technologies embedded into our modules. So we have a embeddedness, for example, in terms of the modular integrated construction and also the design for manufacture and assembly, which is now so much part of how construction is happening in the real world. As an example of a applied research but also project-based activity that has had some measure of success is our students from Chinese medicinal pharmacy who have worked with a biotech startup company as part of their own project-based learning activity, and it is also applied research because they've had some outputs based around this, is to develop a portable near-infrared rapid authentication system for Chinese medicines. So it's been able to tell the real from the fake and to speed up that analysis for the industry. Now, as I said at the beginning, not only is it about the workforce or the skilling needs from a disciplinary point of view that we've got to look at from an Industry 4.0 point of view and Education 4.0 point of view, but we've also got to develop those, the competencies. So for us here at the I, we talk about preparing students that are both work ready and future ready. The future readiness is the ability of our students to be able to meet the needs of the future, to be resilient, to tolerate ambiguity, to actually co-create together, to work in teams, to be creative and to be problem solvers. So this is the VTC's competencies chart that we look at. And I'm just going to refer to team management skills and give you an example of something that has a project that has actually been happening at the VTC since probably about 2013-14. And that is for the engineering students at the VTC Institute of Vocational Training. So this is the sub-degree higher diploma area where the students have collectively worked on creating a solar car, and then they ship it and they actually go and they compete in this World Solar Challenge in Australia. The last one of these was actually held in 2019, and it's an arduous journey. So they use the solar car competing with students from all over the world, and they run the car from Darwin right down to South Australia. So clearly there is a lot of analytics. They've got to make sure that the car runs, that they have the teams working well. So it is all about collaboration, communication, teamwork, and resilience. So over the years, you know, even the graduates from previous cohorts will come in and support the current year in terms of getting this car ready to race. There is clearly industry collaboration as well, and it has been a highly successful example of a project-based learning activity that has extended through a number of years and many generations of student cohorts. The other at the I is our Enterprise Startup Centre. So I mentioned that again, we need to open up our students beyond the disciplinary boundaries to actually develop in them the 21st century smarts. So part of this is more of an enterprising mindset. So at the I, we open up, as I've said to you before, around our general education courses, the enterprise mindset. So the opportunity for graduates now, as they graduate, is to come into this enterprise startup centre where we will incubate them. And we've had several cohorts go through already with great success. And then at the other end of the spectrum again, I just want to say that VTC has got some very young shining stars. So this young lady, Pearlie, has, because you can now through Amazon Web Services do your own certification, or you can embed them, as I was talking to you about, in programs, has really advanced to her own personalised learning journey to become the youngest Amazon Web Services in a number of these key categories. And I think for us as educators, we've got to ask the question, you know, where is education occurring? It's not in bricks and mortar anymore. That is part of our component. It's part of the integration, which is the education process. But as you know, Coursera, there are a number of worldwide platforms where we can get our education and training through micro-credentials, through the embedded certifications that are offered through Amazon Web Services and many of the other very large providers in this stream. The other that VTC, of course, as in providing for the skilling and upskilling, is to participate in World Skills, as many of other global VPET systems also contribute. So the next one is in Shanghai, and I do hope that I will see many of you colleagues in Shanghai in October in 2022. We also provide international exposure for our students in terms of apprentices and students going abroad to actually broaden their intercultural competencies. Likewise, across to the Greater Bay Area to broaden their understanding of the mainland and its relativity to what is happening here in the Hong Kong SAR and the collaboration therefore. I'm going to close by really addressing what I believe is the need, which is an ecosystem approach. So it's not the silo anymore, but that sense of that we need to work together across collaborative platforms to ensure that there is knowledge exchange, to come together as this forum is, to actually acknowledge that we bring, we are stronger together than we are alone in trying to advance the cause for STEM education and developing the VPET tracks around the world. So this is an example of the STEM conference activities that the VTC has hosted over a number of years. Which include both our young people. I'm really pleased to hear that there are students that will also be sharing during this conference. So VPET development in Hong Kong really then is aiming to look at professional, future-ready individuals. And I talk about the students that come from both the young ones through to the first HD or degree to the in-service to lifelong learning. So we're running that whole gamut of education through our lifetimes. But it is also permeable. In other words, it is that ecosystem approach. So we talk about leveraging innovation, digital transformation, and skilling for industry so that we must learn, unlearn, and relearn. And my final slide really is talking about a quote that Alvin Toffler, who is Future Shock guy, way back many decades ago, had the vision, I guess, to say that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I leave you with that quote, and hopefully that will provoke some discussion. And I apologise profusely for the technical hitch that I have experienced. But thank you, everybody, and please do enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Professor Hong, for your very insightful and sharing your observations and your practices and tactics to incorporate our educational and industrial sectors to join forces in creating this 4.0 journey and this family of the STEM ecosystem. It's very interesting. Do we have any questions from our online audience. Actually, there's I'm pretty sure some of the audience were wondering if it would be possible if you could, is there a way that we could perhaps share your slides to our participants today?
Sorry, yes, I absolutely, I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. It's online, everything, there's always this
I'm sorry, that hasn't
animosity.
happened
No
before,
worries.
so I'm not quite
Thank you
sure what
very
that was
much.
about.
Thank you.
My apologies, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'll be moving on to our
Okay,
next.
any questions from
speaker,
the conference room? Any question? Please raise
yes.
your hand. The microphone will go to you.
Hello, you hear me, Professor Christina Hong? Hello. Oh, you're gone.
Hello?
Oh, Professor Christina Hong, you hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm Atikom from Electrical Engineering Academic Association, Thailand, from the on-site conference. And it's quite impressive to hear the successful in education, about education in Hong Kong. But anyway, I assume that before you get successful like this, you must have faced a lot of problems and obstacles before you can come to this point. Can you share about the problems or obstacles that you faced before you come to this point? Do you understand? Can you hear me? Yes?
So the problems that I face.
No, I mean about the education in Hong Kong. Yeah, about the education. I mean, today you presented a lot of successful about education in Hong Kong, right? Yeah, but before you come to this point, I assume that you have faced a lot of problems and obstacles that you have to dealing with. Yes. Could you please share us about the problems that you have faced so far and how did you solve the problems? Thank you.
Okay. So I think there is probably a macro sort of issue, I suppose, that we probably all share if we come from a vet perspective, which is the understanding of what vocational professional education and training is about. I think there is some long-held assumptions that vocational education is somehow a second cousin to university level education, that somehow vocational education and training is for second chance learners. And yet, clearly from what I've demonstrated in the slides, the environments that we now have, certainly here in Hong Kong around vocational professional education and training, are highly technological. And they are highly relevant to where the world is pivoting in terms of Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. So for me, and I think for the VTC here, it's about promoting what VPET is about to the wider community. And trying very hard, and this is a long journey, to make that shift to say, you know, there is the conventional university education, which I venture that most of us have actually gone through, and then there is the vocational professional education track, and that they need to come together. There needs to be a parity of esteem between those two tracks. And in fact, for me, I think that bifurcation between what university education is about and what vet education is about has to come together. You know, I was talking to you about the coming together rather than the separating out. It's about opening up and acknowledging that we all have different ways, different approaches to educating and training for the future. And it will be achieved through collaboration, not bifurcation. So here in Hong Kong, we have had through the government a number of VPET task force reports where industry educations and through public consultation, there have been drivers that have been anticipated. So one of those things now here at the I is that there is an applied degree pilot that the EDB, the Education Department, is putting out, so that there really is going to be an applied degree set of programs. Now for us here at the I, we believe we're already delivering applied degrees, But I think to enhance those, there is going to be increased WIL, so increased work integrated learning, increased embeddedness with industry. So it's more of everything. And I think the situation is about bringing that community into our campuses so that seeing is believing. You know, if you've never stepped foot into a vocational or a VET teaching campus, you may have these assumptions that it is still the blue collar trades, right? So VET very much is kind of in the traditional sense been blue collar, whereas I think universities have been white collar. But the new collar now that has been talked about, and certainly the World Economic Forum talked about this, is a new collar. It's the intersection of those. When we're trying to develop the advanced level skills of the technologists that are so important to Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 moving forward. So there are a number of initiatives that are coming out in Hong Kong to try and bridge that gap and to create a greater understanding of the common good across the VET system. And also in one of my earlier slides, I showed a PwC report, which talks about the value add of vocational education and training to the Hong Kong economy. And I think from memory, it's like $97 billion and the equivalent of 3.4% GDP. So I think for those of us that are in the VET system, it's about giving out the data. You know, I think we have to have much more of an evidence-based approach. So that's at the macro level. I think within my micro, because you asked that question about the I, of course, you know, as I said to you at the top of my speech, digital disruption is impacting education. So I think our challenges are the same as any other industry, in fact. It is getting our teachers to use the new technologies. It's getting our students to actually, you know, entertain hybridity, to understand that they need to do more work. And they can use their digital devices, but they also can use them offline as well as online. And to try and get that intersect between the human delivery as well as the opportunity to engage digitally. So, I mean, from a macro to a micro, and then there are all those things in between, are the challenges and the opportunities that we are trying to address now. It's a long journey, and I think, you know, forums such as this, where we are sharing our lived experiences of those journeys, are really important so that we learn from each other and can pivot in a faster way. So I hope that, in part anyway, I'm happy to have more conversations around that. I think it's a very interesting question.
Thank you very much, Professor Hong, for your sharing experience. Any other question in the conference?
Hello, Professor Christina Hong. My name is Kosin from King Mongkut University of Technology, Thonburi, Thailand. Unfortunately, I'm from Education 1.0. People in my generation, we remember all, even mathematics matter. And today I learned from your talk about Education 4.0. My university is enduring Education 2.0. So we start, the students study based on project. They find the knowledge by themselves. And I'm happy to see that Hong Kong is targeting 4.0. I'm not worried much for the next generation, but worried about our generation. In Thailand, the average of the age for male is 72 and female 80, and increase gradually every year. So as the president of the I in Hong Kong, how do you think about the elderly? And even the next generation, I think the average age should be even 100 years old in the near future. What do you do for elderly to live with the people in the next generation?
I think, you know, there was a slide where I showed Health Tech Forum and the Health Tech Centre, and it is about intergenerational collaboration and helping the younger ones are actually educating and training the older ones. So as I said before, it's about opening up our campuses so that the elders can actually come in. And the elders have a lot to teach our younger generation, just as our younger generation, who are more digitally savvy, can help the older generation. Because our health tech students, for example, and I did show that slide, are very much interested in how they can support the elderly to age in place. There is a saying about aging in place, to be able to use devices in different ways. You know, when you are elderly and you have arthritic hands, for example, and you cannot hold a chopstick properly or a knife and fork, then there are modifications that certainly from my point of view at the eye, you know, in product design, our students are working with that. So if that is a problem for our elderly, how might we solve that? How might we create new products? How might we create new services that will support the elderly to age in place? So I think the short answer is opening up that space, making the needs of the elderly population part of the learning journey of the new current generation, and trying to get them to learn and to co-create together. So again, you know, I go back to that sense that we shouldn't be in these age silos or these program silos or the education silos. It's about bringing together to meet a common need or a project brief or to solve a particular situation. But it takes engineering to do that. I mean, it takes smart teachers, it takes managers and administrators who are willing to be more flexible in their approach to learning. So I think this is where the traditional paradigms, where we have sort of much more lockstep ways of doing, have got to give way to more project-based activity. Now, as an educator myself, though, when you're doing project-based activity, it's not just saying, oh, we're just going to go and do this. You still have to have those learning outcomes. You still have to have the assessment and the assignments, although the assignment could be, you know, reaching the end of that project brief and having the deliverable, the solution or the prototype for that particular product. So Education 4.0 is not easy. It really isn't, because it means you've got to be more creative as a teacher. You've got to be much more of a facilitator, but at the same time, you've got to have your matrix of learning outcomes and the assessment. So it's that overlay effect. So we need very smart, creative, collaborative teachers to affect that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your thoughtful suggestion, Professor. Let's move to our keynote speaker. Back to Ajahn Karina, please.
Thank you, Ajahn Virun. Thank you, Professor Christina Hong, for your answers. And we will be sharing Professor's slides with all of you later on. Next, I would like to introduce our next keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Shukit Limpik Tamnong, President of Institute of the Promotion of Teaching Science and Technology in Thailand. He will be giving us a lecture on his study project 14 towards new normal in education. Without further ado, may I invite Professor Dr. Shukit to join us now.
Thank you very much, Ms. MC. I would like to start my talk by thank you, Kun Ying Sumonta Prombun and Dr. Tikom Daksabut for giving me the opportunity to meet you all today. It is my great honor to be the presenter at this iSTEM conference. I will try to be brief about what we have done and try to explain you in the overall picture of what IPST is doing for the science and mathematics education. So I would like to explain you the overview of IPST in one slide. What we are doing is we do curriculum and learning environment for Thai students, focusing on the 12 years of education from grade 1 to grade 12. And we also do educational research, try to investigate what is the development of the world trend of the curriculum and the way of teaching. After that, we try to implement the selected way of teaching and the best way of how to prepare the next generation of population by doing the professional development to teacher, focusing on science, mathematics teachers. And of course, the main focus of the conference today, we try to promote the scientific literacy to students. So that is also the main focus of IPST. Besides that, we also set up the learning standard for the 12 years of education, just for the science and mathematics and technology part. I will go through this during my presentation. Also, as the technologies move on, we try to promote the way of using media and equipment for better learning of better understanding of science and mathematics. One thing that IPST also did and also continue doing is the promotion of excellence. We target the talented students in science and mathematics, basically about 1% of the top students, by providing them with a proper education as well as scholarship for them to achieve the highest level of the education possible for them, mainly PhD. Next, please. So for the recent activity, this is not the overall picture of what IPST doing, but during the past couple of years, what we have implemented is we changed the look of the basic education science and mathematics books. We implement in new technology, for example, augmented reality. We put the picture in 3D on the web, such that the student can use their smart device to download application and use that to scan on the book, and for the certain pictures on the book that require 3D animation, or some of the picture better described by using a video clip, we implement that in the augmented reality mode so that students can interact with them. For example, if they want to look at how the flower sectioning inside and how the pollination takes place, they can just scan in the still picture in the books, and in that in their smart device, they can get the full view of 3D, and they can zoom in and see how the sectioning of the flower look like. They can rotate, and they can also see the pollination process, the bees coming in, and how the pollination process takes place. This is a new book that we fully transformed the old style of the book to the new books last year, that students start using the full version of new books throughout the countries. We made about 30 million copies of in total of all the books combined. We also jump into the new era of internet by starting collecting the clip video and also the virtual experiments, as well as media learning. We call them IPST learning space, and which project 14 is a part of them, which I will describe in detail today. Also, IPST promotes STEM education throughout the country by creating what we call the STEM center in schools, and try to go to the level of teacher, students, and try to create the STEM environment inside schools. In addition to STEM education, we also doing the standard of SMT standard schools. So in Thailand, there are many programs, unfortunately, but that's true that there are many educational programs that go into school and create confusion. Sometimes clean school, sometimes green school, sometimes school with high moral. But what we focus on is how to create a science, mathematics, and technology standard in school. So basically, what we need is that the student have the core knowledge of science, mathematics, and technology, so that they can step onward to do what they need in their future career. IPST also implement the coding as the core subject in all 12 years of education. For the first time, we are among the first few countries that doing so. A lot of countries try to bring in coding into the curriculum, but Thailand put coding as the mandatory subjects in all 12 years of education, so that we try to make sure that the next generation of students not only learn how to use smart device, but they also understand the basic of how they are functioning, what is the backbone of logic behind the working progress of those smart devices, how the data move through the internet, and how they are processed, what is the information that students can believe, what are the fake information, for example. We also honor to serve the program under Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn, try to tailor cut and make the content that try to raise the level of unfortunate student who is less have less resource, have not fully complete subject teachers, and also some school that cannot provide smart device or things needs for new generation of education. So we try to tailor-made those contents and reach out to those basically what we call is bottom 10% of students, and try to raise them up to the level of competition standards. We also doing the talented program. DPST program is one of them. AMS board selected the student for talent student to compete in the academic Olympiad, and also the promotion of teacher, science and mathematics teacher. Last couple of years, we implement the new program called COSEN. Some of you may not familiar with that, but in short, it is the 5 years starting from high school education program that initiated in Japan, and it is the first time that we brought COSEN into Thailand. There are 51 COSENs in Japan, and in Thailand there are 2 that they acknowledge us as the same standard as the 51 COSEN in Japan. And basically, it is the program to create the practical engineer that cut 2 years of the entire education. So we need talented students to fit into the program, and we are currently successfully operate in 2 campuses, KMUTT and KMITL, and those students are in the second year. Next, please. As we all know, the world is developing and education is changing. Next, please. So what is the expected qualification of people in 21st century? Christina nicely placed it under the word of education 4.0. I think we are talking about the same thing, but maybe a bit different and slightly different angle. Next, please. So we probably hear a lot about we try to do too much knowledge in the education, but what really needed for the people, for the 21st century people is competencies, not just the knowledge, and try to utilize all the time the students have for knowledge, really diminishing the time that they can gather skills and gather the attitude and values. So to make people whole and try to make people with high competencies, we need all three ingredients with proper proportional. And to make that, it is really important that the teacher understand the way of how competency are being created in students. So I stole this slide from OECD research. They nicely put this picture together and say that in order to move in the competency, which is the internal process of each individual, students need to have experience on the core knowledge, the skills. This presented as the gray bar on the side here, knowledge, skills, and the third, which is we overlooked for quite some time, is the attitudes and value. All these three ingredients, of course, some of the students have the third ingredient from family, from home, from community. And those are the fortunate students because normally education in the past focus on the two things, try to educate people, giving them more knowledge, and some better school try to do practical and giving them skills. But the third part about the attitude and value, some can be gained through practical skill, but some, if the education system did not value this, did not give too much emphasis on this, then the competency cannot be created because students sometimes lacking of the third component. So it's very important to provide a system with three components and it's interwoven in each individual. And turn out the people with all these components will have strong competencies. And there is not just one single competency, there are various of competencies with vary degree in each different individual. So each individual are not created equal. So you, some students will have strong competency in the strong competency in the creating new value. Some people will have lots of responsibility. Some students will have strong competency in the responsibility and managing skills. So with people with different competencies, OECD try to create the way that each student develop different competency for themselves, and the main focus try to promote the well-being 2030, so the world can live together with peace. Next, please. So for IPST, we try to do STEM education development throughout different era, and I hope it's not too much to claim that in 1974, when IPST established the SMT inquiry-based learning, that is the STEM also is the rooting of the STEM because we try to create the learning environment such that the student learning from literacy, not just try to gain the content. In 2003, we collaborate with Goethe Institute, which promote Sci-Film Festival. And by the way, we will have the opening ceremony of Sci-Film Festival this year on the 18th of this month. And 2008, we also doing the national curriculum SMT for the first time. And 2010, we create the program SMT Change Agent, create the lead teacher for SMT and try to get the lead teacher to promote the SMT education to other teachers. In 2011, we create IPST learning space. That is the internet world of collecting the clip video and also exam as well as virtual experiment in the internet. 2013, we promote STEM education in Thailand, formally promote STEM education in Thailand by creating the STEM center in different schools throughout the country. In 2017, we revised the national curriculum because the overall curriculum standard in Thailand remained the same, but we just revised the science, mathematics, and technology part. This is also the first time that we implement the coding into the main curriculum and make it mandatory. In 2018, we created the IPST Collaborative School Program so that we're working with various schools that try to focus on science, mathematics, and technology and collaborating with us. In 2020, we initiate the Thai Percent Initiative Project, and we try to negotiate with NIT, which is the central hub of 51% in Japan and brought a percent into Thailand. We believe that our main focus on 2021 here is the Project 14. Next, please. So we believe the main focus on STEM education is inspiring student literacy in science, mathematics with labs and hand-ons, which this provide them various opportunity to understand the main content of the topic that they are studying, as well as have the practical skills and create the collaborative working environment. This also can, if properly used, can highly increase the level of attitude and value because they can understand their friend, they can do collaborative work, they can also understand the difference among themselves and their friend and can value the good part about the work on the labs and hand-on experience. Some people have great skill and doing good in performing hands-on. Some students good at analyzing things. So it's also linked the content that sometimes students don't understand how practically they use in the real world. So by doing hands-on STEM education as we know it, the best part is make learning fun. And when they see things outside the classroom, they understand how the science and mathematics in action, how they work in action, how do they explain nature as it is by using the content in the classroom. Next, please. So I think all of you agree that the heart of any school is the teacher. And if we try to create competency in students, we need to provide them with balance of knowledge, skills, and competencies. So these are the following here is the cartoons that funny but sad. It tells the story about we try to create the student with the same standard, and if the student bring their own value into the school, if they bring their own initiative, their own creative thinking, we try to cut them out because it's wasting time and try to fit them into the same thing for so many years. And lots of students suffer a lot from this. some students rebel and not suffer and prosperously grow up and success in the current environment. So it is very important that we have to change this regime, and the teacher understand knowledge, skills, and competency, and I try to feed this into students with proper way and differently for each of the students. Next, please. So we all suffer the same thing from the COVID-19 pandemics, and we can see that the business as usual has changed. We used to go to movie theater. We used to commute by train. We used to go to different places using airlines. But with the COVID-19 attack, now we have a meeting online. So we use Zoom for over 2 years now. We use Teams meeting. Yesterday, any of you lots of money in the 11/11 shopping spree. Lots of you use Grab. Lots of you, instead of going to movie theater, you adjust to the new way of entertainment using Netflix. So these are the new normal that's going to stay. How about education? We cannot open school for so long, and we create new normal of education, teacher teaching through Zoom, and instead of that, lots of students learning by themselves using internet media, and parents try to participate in lots of their kids' education because we brought the education into their homes, and their home is the sharing space between physically sharing space between parents and students. So it may not all be a bad thing because it is creating the new way of education and fit into the new way of competency-based education quite nicely. So new experience becoming new normal, and the parents participate more in the teaching environments. Of course, teachers always be the central person who try to provide with the contents and be the main content provider to learner, and also being a supervisor, what is right, what is wrong, and the learner have to access to the new information in the new way, not just feeding in the classroom. They used to just go to classroom and waiting for the teacher to teach them. Now they have to learn more responsibility. They have to utilize various contents, and they have to adapt into the new way of learning. Next, please. So OECD have identified what is the new normal of education in the future. So after COVID-19 pandemics, the resilience will create the new environment of learning, similar to usual business that get transformed by the COVID-19 pandemics. The schooling also. They identify the possible 4 scenarios which are likely to take place or intermixing or in different countries. The scenario might take place in the different way. They identify that the first scenario is schooling extended. So the formal schooling system go on as usual, but equipped with the new way of teaching using Zoom, using new media. And the education is outsourced, so schooling system break down. So the traditional way of schooling is not going on anymore, but different parties try to involve more in the take different part of education of the students. Or school might get transformed in the learning hubs for the community, and it's not age provide anymore. Some students might go in and learning something from schools and become more microcredit wise. So students coming in and learn just the thing that they need, but they can learn other things from outside as well. The fourth scenario is the scenario that many of the educators are afraid of. That is the learn as you go. So student does not need to come to school anymore. The learning become part of their life from the day one that they was born. And as soon as they grab the tablet, they start to learning intervene widely, closely with the internet. So they don't need to come to school at all. That's why the education become part of their life. Educators will lose their job in this scenario if they don't adapt. Next, please. So in order to provide for all those, IPST create the Project 14. Many ask me, what is Project 14? Actually, it starts as the initiative project. It is just the number of the project number 14 of 25 projects that we have in that years. And because COVID-19 pandemic hits us, so we have to expand project number 14 instead of being the study of the media for the future. In 1 year, we create the content for all of the content throughout 12 years of education that we are responsible for. And we make them available online. So we basically convert all the content that we have in the book that we provide into video clips. And students can learn from this instead of going to school, of course, with some deficiency because something that we cannot do as well as face-to-face, but we try to make up with the better things that the internet and the new media can provide. So we will utilize online access. We will have competency-based pedagogy, try to do best that the screen can give you and can connect directly to the learners. Thank you to Kun Ying Sumonta Kumbun that suggests me to this. She used to told me once that in the old days, the teacher is the problem that teaching English pronunciation is not successful. So in different countries, sometimes they just tell the teacher not to teach the student how to give speech, but just turn on the tape recorder for the student to hear from the direct voice. So direct pronunciation. So we believe that with the internet, we can also reach directly to the student, get them to learn directly from the creator of the content. But sometimes in many subjects, sometimes we have to admit it that sometimes the teacher is the problem because sometimes they mislead the student and don't teach the student correctly. So internet also has the good part about this, that we can reach out from the creator to the student directly and in a mass scale. So it's similar to instead of teacher try to teach the student to pronounce English properly, we can use this video clip to reach out to the student and they can learn directly the proper way. Next, please. So Project 14 is currently available, and we believe that it is the new normal of education for students. Students can learn from it anywhere. We just upload it on YouTube and Facebook, of course, commercially free. And the student can have learning at their own speed. They have self-paced learning, focus on understanding and association with real life, because we can put resource in, try to do the best script video for each subject instead of teacher around Thailand have to make their own script. Of course, we can invest more resource in doing so, and we can go and try to do the real life experiment, real life video recording, and do more professional cutting of the clip. So 1 hour of teaching, we collapse that into 15 minutes of clip video because we believe that the focusing time of each student is quite short, and student cannot focus on clip video longer than half an hour, for example. So we try to limit our clip video for each 1 hour of teaching into 15 minutes. So a teacher can also learning from this clip video and expand in the teaching in face-to-face conditions. So out of 120 national standards from year 1 to year 12 grade SMT textbook, we convert into about 3,000 video clips, and we provide them free of charge in the internet right now. Next, please. So the Project 14 video clips have focused on I'm sorry that my time is up, but I try to wrap up now. We have real world situation. We have a clear illustration with animation. We also encourage thinking because each subject we can stimulate the thinking of students and provide them with a way of thinking. We also have the demonstration, simple equipment, and we also have virtual experiments that the student can set up parameter and do virtual experiment in their own machine. We have initiating the Project 14 Plus, which is the AI, try to feed in video in the similar way that Netflix influence us, because Netflix try to guess what we want to watch and provide us with the better film, better documentary that fit our style. Project 14 Plus, with each student logging in, we believe that we can keep track of them and understanding their learning progress and provide them with the clip video that better suit their needs, and also try to keep track of their portfolio and understand each individual student so that we can analyze what is best for them for the future. Next, please. So let me finish my talk by saying that when the world is predictable, you need smart people. But when the world is unpredictable, you need adaptable people, to quote by Henry Mintzberg. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajahn Sukit, for sharing your method of arriving to Project 14 as educators. I'm pretty sure most of us will find and look forward to more from Project 14 CAP. Now I would like to invite Ajahn Virun.
Thank you. Only one question from the conference hall. Would like to ask Professor Dr. Sukit. One question, please. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I've got one question, because you talked a lot about this new way of teaching. What I see is it invites a lot of inequality, because the students who have the right learning environment at home, for them it will be easy to follow up. But the students who don't have the right learning environment at home, for them it will be very, very difficult to, let's say, do the teaching themselves or do the studying themselves without having proper guidance by the parents, because not all parents are able to guide the students. Or am I seeing this wrong?
I'm sorry. I think the sound is quite muffled with the mask on.
Okay, may I take it off?
Can the MC please
I'm sorry.
to repeat the question for me?
Yes, I think I found your talk really impressive. But what I see is that there's a chance of inequality, an increased inequality, because of this kind of teaching. Because at university, for example, or at school, all students need to be there. They have the same kind of environment. But when it comes down to teaching and studying from home, not all students have a perfect environment at home to study. We've lately had, during this COVID, comments from teachers in Germany, and even there the inequality is increasing. So, and I think it might be more challenging even for Thailand. And my personal experience is, I had students basically telling me online that they are sitting on a bed and following up the session and blanking out after 15 or 30 minutes. And that's kind of scary for me. And we are not the top university, but what I see is that it will create a higher degree of inequality. And yeah, I would like to know how you think about that.
I believe what you mentioned is about the inequality and also the access of in different schools. Sometimes they can learning from home. Some students cannot learning from home, maybe with various reasons. I think in Thailand we try our best to resolve the current situation, but for Project 14 is look forward to the future more. I admit that some of the area, especially the rural area in Thailand, we don't have quite internet reaching. Some of the students cannot reach the even electricity, for example. So for those students, we try to provide with their paper-based, try to provide them with self-learning paper-based content, so that some students can learn by themselves, don't need the teacher to guide them. For Project 14, we believe that there are two folds. One fold is the teacher who is not the main, don't have the perfect specialist for the subject that they need to teach, can learn from Project 14 first, and then provide the student what they need with better understanding, but because they can use Project 14 as the content for them to learn. And also in the country level, we with the help of the Deputy Minister of Education, we try to raise to the government that the best investment for current situation is provide needed student with device and internet access, so that will immediately bring the equality to them. Giving them money won't help them in the long run at the moment. Providing them with a paper-based media is not helping them in the long run, because sooner or later, when the country is full of smart device and it's become part of our everyday life, not reaching to those devices already provide them with inequality when they grow up. So we try to launch the program that provide the bottom 10% of the students who in need of device have access to this, which of course is beyond our capability of money-wise. But if the country agree, if the top level of people agree, we believe this project can push through. Thailand is infamous for trying to create equality, but equality in the way that if single student, rich or poor, get one, the other have to get two. But this program that we focus on is targeting the needed student and poverty student who really need it, and try to use our resource wisely. Hope that this will get through. And I apologize if my answer is not directly at your question, because the sound quality that get into the internet is really poor. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your insight. Now, I would like to close off our keynote sessions. It is my pleasure to invite Associate Professor Dr. Kun Hing Sumontha Promboon, the President of the Radar Technology Institute to present a lecture on the topic of trends in post-COVID STEM education. Okay, Kun Ying, I would like to hand the podium over to you now. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to very good lectures for almost 2 hours now, so I think you must be very tired. If you would like to shake up or do something, it's fine with me. Don't go to sleep yet. I feel very honored to be here as an old teacher to say something about my ideas on post-COVID STEM education. I hope I can give you some good ideas, and I've been in education since Education 1.0, so this is quite scary. In my lifetime, I've seen so much change all around, but I have faith. I think we can adapt. The last slide on the last speaker, adaptability, that is a very essential word for the next, for post-COVID. There's a flexibility or resilience, which is the key for the next, for the future. We are all teachers. Some are forced teachers. Most of us here are engineers or scientists or technologists who have to teach. And I think those of you who have been teaching for some time could agree with me that education is very difficult. Many people feel that they know something about education. It's very difficult. It's individualized. Even though I try to speak to you in here and also online, I'm sure that not all of them get it. Not all of them even want to get it. And that is the problem with education. It's individualized. Your game is to get them to understand, is to get them to do it. That is the teacher's game. Education is teaching and learning with purpose and direction. So let's go to the next slide. You see, education is directive and purposive. If you teach a student and they don't have any purpose, you fail in the beginning. You already fail because they don't get it. They don't want to get it. Education is to want to be capable. The person has to want to be capable. So to me, good education is not just learning, it's not just teaching. It has to change one's life, either in the head, in their heart, or in their habits. Education has something to do with values and habit forming. I hope that you could think about what I said and become a teacher who can change your students. Next slide. Next slide. The Thai tradition talks about education in a tetrahedron. The first component is theoretical knowledge, which we know very well. We teach this very well, in fact, too much. Practical learning must couple theoretical and two others. All four have to be present in education process, not just one or two or three, all four. Moral education, the values, the attitude. And the last one, physical education is not exercise. Physical education is hands-on activities that need some body movement. So these four tetrahedrons, is interconnected. You can't leave one after another, okay? Next slide. Now come the STEM. STEM education. My colleagues and I introduced STEM education to Thailand after the Thailand-US roundtable, education roundtable in 2019. And we introduced them and promoted them. I like STEM education because it reminds me of the tetrahedron. STEM education is about integration of knowledge, process, and attitude. So I like STEM education very much. And COVID came. Next slide. COVID disrupted our classroom. In a way, we have to find other ways to do education. And there are many innovations in education during the past year. COVID disrupts our classroom. No classroom. We teach to the monitor. And first we didn't like it, and now we kind of okay. It's a new normal of education, and it's digitally based. We are forced to. Now the school-based education is disrupted. It becomes home-based, community-based, purpose-based in the future, purpose-based, theme-based. This is undeniable. It comes even though you don't like it. The next one, next slide. So in post-COVID time, I expect much more STEM education and digitalized education. STEM education is not really for well-to-do or rich environment, but STEM education is for all. COVID pandemic has forced the teachers to experiment on new education delivery. And I have been thinking a lot about this. Here, the time is limited. I will give you a quick examples, 3 examples. 3 good examples of STEM education which survive COVID. It can be done during COVID. The first example, next slide. The first example is called the Little Scientist House Project. In fact, we started that 10 years ago. In 2010, we started Little Scientist House for kindergarten. We want them to have some scientific attitude. So we started in kindergarten. Now it extended to primary level, primary education. I'm very proud to say that this project in 10 years, it started with 212 schools. Now we have very close to 30,000 schools. The project was initiated by Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn, and I chair the project for 10 years. I don't know how to do it, but I have 8 partners, 8 partner institutions with those who really love to do it, very good teachers indeed. So in these 8 partners, 5 are public institutions and 3 are private institutions. One of the success factor is really partnership. Partnership. Each has its own responsibility, but coming together, we make Little Scientist House a very good for the children. But I have to wait for 20 more years to see what happens. There's small children, kindergarten. This is education. You do it, the younger, the better. But it takes a long time to fruit. That's Little Scientist House. Next photo. Yes, this is at the beginning when we started the project 10 years ago. Many prominent educators are present in this picture, and on the chair is our Princess Sirinthorn. I think she is the magnet of the partnership, and this is one of the key factors for success. Next slide. This is only at the in March of this year. We celebrate our 10th anniversary online, and Princess gave a lecture. Next slide, please. This is the book that we published on the 10th anniversary. It's a very good book. I think the success factor is the next slide, another success factor. We have cartoons program every Sunday morning. Not many grown-ups get up so early to watch this program. It's 7:30. It used to be 6:30 in the morning, and the TV program promoted to 7:30. Even though 7:30, I don't think you wake up to see it. But they said the children love it. Children get up early. So this is the program which is quite very successful. And the children know Gan Gao, Mao Miao, and Dinosaur. We give them names, and children know it. That's the success factor, is that we have activities all the time, all year round. And we give each school certification. And the certification is not permanent. They have to do well every year to get the next certification. So this is all the management that we try to do to put STEM education to the youngest ever, the youngest possible children. Hopefully, the children will grow up to be engineers or scientists or whatever with the scientific mind. This is the first example that I would like to talk about, but I forgot to tell you that the model is adopted from German model, Haus der kleinen Forscher, thanks to our German colleague. And they have been very kind and very helpful. So we have international network. We have a German and also Australian partnership. The next example, the second example is quite different. We talk about online, we talk about digital education, but here I'm talking about the remote areas where they don't have stable electricity. They don't have Wi-Fi. So what do they do? This is really a difficult task for Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri. For over 40 years, she has been trying to give equal opportunity to these children. So during COVID, what Her Royal Highness did was to provide things like education survival bags, in which in the bags there are reading and writing materials, mask, alcohol gel, seeds, and whatever that can be educational to the children. She put them in the bags for the children, for the family. In this situation, teachers like us can think about it and can think what we can do for them. Just like you said, the parents cannot help much because parents never went to school. This is mostly the first generation who get to school. So we have to provide the materials for those who have not been trained as teachers, but can use the materials to do something, not the best, but at least the children don't waste time for education. They should have education, even though it's not the complete or the perfect education. So in this case, I think it's a very good model to use agriculture, handicrafts, and environments, culture, environment, local culture and environment, as the materials or as the topics of education for them to learn and to write about. This is what happened. Next slide. The next slide. You could see that sometimes the soldiers in the area help. They are not teachers, but they want to help. And it helps too. They teach them to read, to write, and also to write about what they see or what they learn, which is quite okay. In some places, they have smart TVs, or there are some donation of smart TVs, so the children can learn from the distant learning TV. That could help. The next slide shows Project 14 of the IPST. They can use Project 14 to learn. So this is another way of using Project 14 offline. By using thumb drive, the left picture is the thumb drive that we gave to the children, to the community, and they can come together using the smart TV to study science through Project 14. It's better than nothing, no? And you can't let them go unlearning, uneducated. They have to get something. This is also a model that in case you get nothing, you find nothing at all, you still have to do something. Everything all around is good for learning, for studying, for STEM. Next slide, please. Next slide is the third example. In fact, Professor Christina Hong has already told you about what Hong Kong, what her institution is doing, earn and learn. But in this case, we call, this case happens at Thailand Technology Institute. We call it work and study. Work and study. The dean is sitting right here, and we are having a bachelor's degree program for workers who work as usual, regularly, and who come to enroll as our students. Over the weekend, they study theoretical part online, and they also do projects. And the projects are based on their work. Whatever happened, whatever are the problems of their work, they bring them to school to work on it, to solve the problems, to make it better, and this is how they learn. This is work and study program. We have done it successfully. 16 graduates got the degrees last month. 16 first batch of graduates. And we are very proud of them. And I think post-COVID, there will be more work study. The other way around, study and work, it means that they are in school, but they also earn some money. Work and study, study and work are our motto at Thailand Technology Institute. Next slide. Yeah, these are the atmosphere of the work and study program. Next slide. And they can use the results of their projects. They can use their innovations to improve their work. Isn't that a good idea? Their employers can be very happy because they also benefit from that study. Not only the workers, but the employers as well. So I think these three examples for you to take away and consider. I think there will be more, many more innovation. Education is not the same in everyone. So I think there will be many more examples. In conclusion, the last slide. In conclusion, education from now on will be more purposeful. If you ask someone who come to school, they tell you why they study. Not just like what we experience sometimes, I don't know. that shouldn't be that way. Education should be more specific. And STEM education is more important. It will be much more used than teaching subjects after subjects without really getting to anywhere. Education is more science-based. I believe it's more science-based. Education for all ages, education for sustainable development. And the next thing is very important. Education is relevant to life, work, society, and sustainability. Education will be more flexible in delivery method. It can happen anywhere, anytime. I think the holistic and integrated education will become more and more recognized. One more slide, one last slide, is about sufficiency economy, which is the key for sustainability and self-sufficiency. I think this will be the key for development in a risky and ever-changing environment. Our late King Bhumibol Adulyadej has long taught us about sufficiency economy. I think post-COVID, this will not be just philosophy, but it will be practiced and appreciated all over the world. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Kunying Sumonta, for your insights, and your lecture has provided us with ways to cope with COVID-19 and also digital disruptive era concerning education, and we all learn the benevolence of Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn from this lecture. I would like to invite one question from the conference hall. Anyone would like to ask? Please raise your hand. Okay, just a moment.
Okay. So thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting. So my concern is not only in Thailand but maybe worldwide. Most of our students interested in, want to learn, not interested to learn science technologies. They want to learn like a humanity and something like that. Even my daughter, my young daughter, when I asked her what you want to be in the future, she said she want to be YouTuber. That's amazing for all most of students in the world. So I would like to ask your comment how to ask them come to study in science technology to maybe to be maybe scientist and engineer or maybe a medical doctor in the future.
Yes. You know, I introduced the little scientist house for you, and you just see the little girls and boys. After the little scientist house, you interview them. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a science teacher. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a nurse. I want to be an engineer. I think something happens in between, making students so scared of science, which is so wrong. Science is all around us. You like it or not, COVID is about science. Everything is about science, and the problem is that even though you are a YouTuber, If you don't know science, you cannot be good YouTuber. If you don't practice science, science process skills is something different from the content. If you don't have that in your mind, whatever you do, you don't do it to the best of the knowledge. So I think this is all I can say. Something wrong, okay? Something wrong. You should really don't let your children be scared of science, because science is knowledge. Science is supposed to be fun, or it's supposed to be something that tells you about the nature so that you understand and you don't be too scared to live. You understand. I don't know. I like science all my life, and my children, even though they are not scientists, but they like science. And when I say science, it doesn't mean that they have to be scientists or engineer. They can be anyone, they can do anything. But if they have scientific mind, scientific attitude, I think they are better off.
Thank you, Kun Hing Samontha, for your answer, for your insightful answer and encouraging words for us. Okay, thank you, everybody. And I would like to express the appreciation again for all our keynote speakers on your insightful and applicable lectures. I'm quite sure most of us are inspired and ignited with the resources passed on us today. Now, for the next program, yesterday we had student project presentation from different schools nationwide. And it is the first time in the STEM-Ed conference that we have given space for our younger generation. And then it is time for them and for us to know the results. So back to Ajahn Karina online to announce the result of the student project yesterday.
Thank you, Ajahn Virun. So yesterday our students gave a presentation. There are 4 categories of awards, including the best student project, the first runner-up, the second runner-up, and honorable mention awards. First, we will start with 4 awards for honorable mention. The teams will be sent certificates and conference souvenir polo shirts. So let's please give a hand to our first school is Kanjanapisek Vityalai Suphanburi School. The second school is Gaset Sat University Laboratory School, Kamphaeng San, Campus Educational Research and Development Center. The third school is Princess Julapon Science High School, Phetburi. And last but not least is Wari Chiang Mai School. These schools are our honorable mentions. Next, for the second runner-up award, they will be sent certificates, souvenir polo shirts, and a 2,000 baht reward. And as it happens, the result ended up in a tie between 2 schools. So they will be each given a reward. The first school is Mahidol Vidyanusan School. And the second is Princess Julapon Science High School, Chiang Rai. For the first runner-up team who will receive certificates, conference souvenir polo shirts, and a 3,000 baht reward, let's give a round of applause to Naresuan University Secondary Demonstration School. Okay, now, out of 28 schools which have joined this activity, we are delighted to congratulate the team receiving the Best Student Project Award with certificates, souvenir polo shirts, and 5,000 baht prize. And the winner is Princess Dulapon Science High School, Trang.
Okay, thank you again for all students, and we would like to congratulate on your earnest hard work. And everyone will be sent certificates. Everyone who participate in this activity will be sent certificate of participation. Before we close the morning session with online group photos, I would like to invite you to join our afternoon paper session via the links in your email. And if you are free in the evening, please join us remotely for our farewell dinner through YouTube channel and Facebook Live. In this event, we will be awarding recipient of the Best Paper Awards, as well as the ceremony of passing the flag. And the program you don't want to miss out on is cultural performances provided by Throlada Technology Institute. Lunch will be served at Amari Food Gallery, the same food restaurant in the morning. And now, just see you again in the afternoon. Thank you. And for this time, I would like all the participants to be present in front of on the stage and in front of the stage for the group photo. Thank you.
Okay. Online participants, please stay online and we'll do a virtual group photo. Thank you.
Okay. And online participant, could you please turn on the camera so we can turn on the gallery wheel to show all the participants online. Everybody in this conference, you can join us on the stage or in front of the stage. Okay, everybody is ready. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Just a moment, please. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to join us online again this afternoon. Goodbye.